Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronia, and in today's video, I actually want to talk about some money habits that might be stopping you from saving money. Now, if you're watching this in real time, then you may be questioning this because obviously there's a lot of high inflation going on, prices are going up, and wages just aren't keeping up. And so the one question you might have is, Auntie V, if prices keep going up, then how on earth do you expect me to still save money? Now, whilst that may be true, especially for people that are on lower incomes, for many people that do have decent wages, I'm going to be honest and say that so many people were still struggling to save money and they didn't necessarily have an income problem. And this was all before we had this high inflation. So even though things may be going up, it's not impossible to save money. And the reason why I say that is because we're still able to save money and my clients are still able to save money even if we do have all of this high inflation. And so if you realize that you're in the camp where you actually have a decent wage but you're still struggling to save money and it's not necessarily because prices are going up, what I want to do is explain in this video some of the money habits that might actually be stopping you from saving money. And if you're then able to overcome that, you may find that you're still able to save money even if we are in a period of high inflation. So the first habit that might be stopping you from saving money is the fact that you may always have a feeling of lack. Now, what I mean by this is you may always feel like you never ever have enough money. No matter how much you make, no matter how many promotions you may get, you always feel like you will never have enough money. And so because of that, you end up spending the money instead of saving it. Now, I've actually noticed this as a common theme with the clients that I work with, because every time, even though they may have a consistent income and maybe they've even been able to get another job and make more money, nothing really changes because they always feel like they don't have enough. And so because they feel like they don't have enough, they automatically think that they can never save money at all. And actually all their money is just going to go straight towards paying bills. And if they do have extra money, then all they can do is spend it. Now, whilst there is nothing wrong with spending money, and I actually do encourage you to spend your money, at the same time, if you always have this feeling of lack, well, what that means is that no matter how much money you make, you're going to consistently have the same habit of just thinking that that money will just be used to pay bills and spend your money, and you'll never be able to save your money. And so if you always feel like you never have enough money, that could be a key reason why you're just not able to save money. And even if you end up making more money down the line, you might find that things just don't change. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel. Plus, I'm sure you know, it's free. Now, the second habit that might be stopping you from saving more money is the fact that you may not be taking the time to think about your vision. Now, first of all, you might be thinking, how is a vision actually going to help me save money? But it's probably going to be one of the most important things that you should be doing when it comes to saving more money, and here's why. So when it comes to most people dealing with their money, this is what will usually happen. They have their job, they pay their bills, and then they spend the rest of the money, and they'll do that for the next 40 odd years. Now, I'm definitely not saying there's anything wrong with that, but what I really want you to think about and actually question is whether people do that by choice, or do they do that because they have no other option? And unfortunately, what you might find is that most people will do that because they just don't have an option. And one of the biggest reasons for this is because they don't have a vision. And so they haven't actually thought about what they would really like to do in life. For example, if you don't want to work for 40 years, you might start thinking about things like financial independence. And so when you now start thinking about that vision and what your life could be like without having to work for 40 years, you're more likely to save money because there is something that you're working towards. Now, if you want to learn about the key steps that I took to not only have that vision, but to also figure out what my long-term goals are and my short-term goals are and how I can actually start saving more money, definitely make sure you check out my money management guide, because I explain all of the steps there. So if you are interested, I'll make sure I leave a link up here for you and in the description below. And yes, although having a vision may seem like a waste of time, I would honestly say it's one of the powerful things that you can do, because that's going to help you keep you motivated when times get tough. So for example, in my case, when I was trying to save money so I can pay off debt, I made a lot of mistakes and I definitely could have given up. But what helped me was my vision. What helped me was thinking about my long-term goals and what I eventually wanted to achieve. That gave me the motivation to keep going and save as much money as possible, and that was all down to my vision. So I would definitely recommend you to not skip that step. Now, the third money habit that might be stopping you from saving money is just not having a plan. Now, this pretty much links onto my previous point when you have a vision, but ideally, once you've had that vision, what you want to be thinking about is, okay, how am I actually going to get there? So for example, if you're trying to save money, you want to be questioning, how much should I be saving and by when? Now, the problem that I see with many people is that sometimes they may have all of these dreams, but then it's very fluffy in terms of how they actually plan to get there. So for example, one of the biggest dreams you may have is to eventually buy your own home. But if I was to ask you how much do you need to save for that, you may just give me a blank face and have no idea. And so what happens is that dream will never really become a reality. It's just going to be a dream and that's it. And so if you really want to start saving more money, you need to be more tangible. Just saying that you would love to buy your own home one day is not going to cut it. You need to understand how much you should be saving in order for you to reach that goal. And so once you have that, it's going to be a lot easier where you can start to allocate how much money you can then start saving towards that goal. Now, the next money habit that might be stopping you from saving money is not consistently sticking to your budget. Now, the reason why I wanted to make this point is because I remember one time on Instagram, I actually polled my audience asking them if they have a budget. And when it came to having a budget, most people said yes, that they do have a budget. And so I thought, oh, that's great. Maybe everyone has their money sorted. But I decided to ask a follow-up question and I asked them, do you stick to your budget? And when I asked that question, a good few percentage said no. And so whilst having a budget is great and it's definitely a good first step, what many people are missing is that if you're not necessarily sticking to that budget, well then you may have defeated the purpose of budgeting, and so you may not be able to save money even if you do have a budget. Now, being aware when it comes to sticking to your budget, this does not mean that you should cut down on everything and stop spending your money. Another problem that many people have is that they think that budgeting is supposed to stop them spending money. No, it's not. Budgeting is literally you telling your money where to go. And so if you want to stick to your budget, you need to make sure that your budget is as realistic as possible so that it can guide you during the month or the week. You have the power to choose how much money you're going to spend during that time, but what you want to make sure is that money is realistic so that you understand exactly how much you've decided to spend versus how much you've decided to save. And if you're at the point where you don't necessarily have a budget at all, don't worry, Auntie V always has your back. I have so many different budgeting videos and I also have my own budgeting templates as well. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. I will link one video up here for you and in the description below. Now, the fifth money habit that might be stopping you from saving money is honestly just not paying yourself first. Now, when I first started learning about personal finance and money management, this was one of the biggest things that absolutely changed my life. So in the past, whenever I got paid, what I would say to myself is, okay, I'm gonna spend this amount of money and then whatever money I have left, I will end up saving it. Big mistake. Why? Because I never ended up saving that money. If I ever saw extra money in my bank account, there was no way I was just going to let it sit there. I was going to spend it. And so you'll probably find that that's what most people will do. Once they get paid, they'll pay for all of their bills and then they'll spend the money, and whatever money is left over, they'll save it. But for most people, they'll realize that they literally have no money left at the end of the month to save. And so they end up being in this consistent cycle where they're still not saving money. And so if you really do want to start saving money, make sure that you are paying yourself first. So make sure that you're actually setting money aside before you spend all of it. That way you already know that you've saved a certain amount and the rest of the money can just be spent. Now, the next money habit that might be stopping you from saving money is the idea that you may not be thinking differently. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, Auntie V, okay, I have no idea what you're talking about. What on earth has my thinking got to do with saving money? Now, yes, that might sound a bit strange, but I want to talk about my own personal experience. So before I consistently started to save a lot more money, I genuinely thought that I was a spender and then that's it. And so my thought process was that I always spend money and I can never save money. And so what happened was I never saved money until I got to the point where I decided to start thinking differently. And so rather than me telling myself that I'm just a spender and I never save money, what I decided to think is that actually I can also be a saver as well as a spender. And so what I was doing was just changing my thought process and telling myself that I can save money and believing that I can also save money. And so even though I made mistakes, I still had the same thought process of always knowing that not only can I save money, I can also spend my money and enjoy it at the same time. And I've now got to the point where I've mastered that so well, where I can easily save 40% of my income, but I can also spend my money and enjoy myself and even travel at the same time. And so especially if you're the type of person who's maybe never saved money before and you always feel like you spend it or something just isn't happening, I would really encourage you to start changing your thoughts and believing that you can save money. Even if you haven't done it in the past, that doesn't mean you can't do it in the future. For example, in my case, I used to live paycheck to paycheck and I literally spent every penny or cent to the point that I ended up being in debt. Whereas now I've been able to save over 40% of my income, and part of that was because I had to start changing my thoughts and beliefs around saving money. Now, if you would absolutely love to start saving more money, but you feel like you might need some additional support because you've tried to do it and it still hasn't worked, make sure you do check out my one-on-one coaching, because that is something that I definitely specialize in. I have been able to help clients save over 20% more on their current income, whilst at the same time they've still been able to spend their money how they like as well. So make sure you do check that out if you are interested. You can book a free sales call with me. So I'll link more information up here for you and in the description below. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, what are some other habits that you think might be keeping you from saving money? I do post every Tuesday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next Tuesday.